Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Leila. How are you doing?
I am fine. As we were chit chatting a little bit before we turned on record, and I'm good. Tumultuous start to the year in international politics, but other than that, I'm great. How about you?
Yeah. Uh, Very sums it up pretty well. I would say we don't cover any of that stuff, otherwise we'll definitely blow the scope of this conversation. But obviously, it's on everyone's minds. But yeah, today we're here to talk about carbon removal. It's our first one in January, first one of the year, and yeah, looking forward to getting into it.
Let's get into it and distract ourselves. Oh, it's not a distraction. It's a worthy distraction, CDR. All right. Number one, we have mega excited. Yeah. So we actually did deliver removals in 25. How much? Or how
Yeah,
much have
this
we
will.
removed in total? I mean, I guess it's a total number, which is exciting.
I guess it's a nice way to kick off the year. We have now crossed the 1 million tons of carbon dioxide removed. And there's obviously two sides to this story. There's kind of the negative interpretation, which obviously also happened on my social feed, which was, it's a drop in the ocean. It's true. It's nothing compared to what we need to achieve, right? But I'm an optimist, as I know you know. And the way that I look at it, I ran the numbers. It took us 5 years to get to 500,000, and it took us 15 months to then do another 500,000, right? So, and also what this number really tells us is not, and what counts is not the million tons. What counts is the hundreds of CDR startups, the 11 billion spent on carbon removal by corporates, and all the thousands of CDR careers that have been enabled, right? So I think it's a really big milestone, and we should be very proud to have achieved it and to see it accelerating. So yeah, it's a good way, I guess, to start the year.
It is. And I think for people who aren't engineers, even, milestones are good. And as long as it's moving in a certain direction, if the direction of travel is, growth and good growth in terms of intelligence, jobs, removals, it's good. It's difficult. It's a lot harder than people think in some cases, and so, yeah, if they're just looking for a lot of removals as the only indicator, I think that's obviously very short-sighted. So I would absolutely agree with you. And it's
And
great
maybe
to have
it's,
CDR. Yeah.
gone.
No, I was just going to say, like, it's great to have CDR FYI tracking that stuff too. I think it's very helpful.
Yeah, I mean, they keep appearing in pretty much every show we do. And a special shout out, I think, should go to Exomat Green, because Exomat Green,
Oh,
Bolivian
yeah.
company, they account for a quarter of this 1 million, a single
Yeah,
company,
that's
right?
incredible.
So we're seeing quite a few companies actually pick up pace. I looked again at the numbers today, and the top four, all in the global south. The top four companies that have done more than 100,000 are all from the global south. But yeah, Exomat is
They're
speeding
doing
ahead.
great. And
Yeah, and so
Alcom in
yeah.
Philippines. And Alcom, I would say biochar in general is doing a lot of heavy lifting. And I'm happy to say that our movie is in a rough cut form. And we will be
That is
premiering
exciting.
yes, we're going to be premiering the biochar effect in Singapore, looks like, at
When?
Ecosperity in May.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So that's coming out. And actually, there's so much good material. The first cut of the movie is 9 hours
I'll
because
watch the whole
it's,
thing, Leila.
I'm telling you, my mom, who likes to watch, has watched every film I've ever made from the early edits to the late edits, said, "This is fascinating." She's like, I can't, because each group, each company has their own, inputs, outputs, external, addition, all it's fantastic, So it's you guys did a great job in Bolivia. Matthew did a great job all over the world. So I'm very pleased with what I'm looking
Very
at.
cool. Looking
So
forward
it's
to it.
exciting. All right, reset and reflect number two. So yeah, what did you have any epiphanies, and what were they?
Yeah, I'd like to take the break to sit down and think, what's happened in the last year, what's going to happen in the next year. This time, I also recorded this as two episodes with Evan. We did a reflection and a kind of projection episode. And when you look back at 25, I mean, keeping it pretty high level, there's obviously some huge setbacks. The role of the US, both domestically in the US, but also across multilateralism, is a huge blow to everything, including climate, including carbon removal. markets. But then, and also the SBTI, which we talked about, the Science-Based Targets Initiative, that was also something that we had a lot of hopes for. That's gone really the wrong direction. But when you cut through that noise, you can see a lot of positive things that have happened last year in the UK, in Germany, in Brussels. We covered all of this in our episodes, but there's been a lot of positive development. And when we look forward to 2026, I think it's going to be a huge year. Especially a couple of things we've already covered, but to repeat, Germany is going to purchase carbon removal for the first time, like first government ever that's actually going to purchase carbon removal. And we're going to see Europe putting a proposal forward for the integration of carbon removals into compliance markets. So that's, again, just two examples, but I'm really excited of what this year could bring. So invite anyone to check out those two episodes if they want to go get the deep dive. What are your projections? What do you look forward to for 26?
I think you're right. I think that the mood has absolutely shifted away from the word carbon. I think that what is interesting, though, is innovation and sort of bringing innovative ideas to helping make agriculture resilient, which is why biochar is so interesting. And that's why biochar is so interesting in the materials space, right? And also in the waste space. So when you do a deep dive on, let's say, just biochar, for example, you find a lot of economically valuable ideas. And that's where a lot of this money will flow, right? And same for anything that is any other pathway, let's say, that can make circular the carbon cycle with economic value besides the credits, right? Because right now you have the credits that in some cases are required or under like you say, compliance, or it's just a value proposition that you have to sell to your shareholders. It's virtue signaling for some, which is obviously a lot weaker. It used to be more powerful. That is gone. I think the virtue signaling and all that is gone. So you really have to look at making it economically viable and providing improvements in the way I've always said how civilization fits in the carbon cycle, along with better materials flows and all of that. So I think that's where, and it's not terrible. I mean, that's not a terrible place to be, because it makes you more, if you adapt in this environment, you're going to be unbreakable, So that's how I see it. But obviously, if it was easier, it would be better. But it's not going to be easier. So that's my perspective.
And I think these business models we're going to see more and more of that are able to draw that line.
Yeah, and it's especially less idealistic, which, by the way, don't get me wrong, I was very idealistic for most of my life, but I do think that, signing pledges that you'll never work with the fossil fuel industry, even though like sometimes mineralization will need some of that expertise, I don't know, helps anybody. Do you know what I mean? I don't know how you feel about that.
I think we need to be pragmatic. I think the topic of oil and gas obviously fills a long conversation, but I agree. I think we need to be pragmatic. And actually, I just hopped off a recording I did with an Oxford professor who works a lot in the Global South on basically why you need to frame environmental policy as industrial policy. If you can't frame it as industrial policy, as industrial opportunities, you don't stand a chance.
Not at all.
So, I think we'll come back to this theme.
Yeah, that's actually a really good. Yeah, and that's also what I've been discussing with when I do my other podcasts and stuff. I'm fascinated by energy materials because that's what it's about, right? Anyway, but back to compliance and things like that. Demand unlock number 3. What's happening in the EU?
Yeah, this is a recurring theme, and it will continue to be because it's such a big deal. This is the EU's ambition to procure a lot of international credits in the 2030s to achieve its 2040 climate target. They now have reached an agreement. There's a final text, and essentially it confirms that they want to achieve 5%, which is actually a really large number. I calculated it's between 237 and 666 megatons in the 2030s. It's huge. And we also had an interesting conversation with Lambert Schneider, who is this academic who's been working on carbon market methodologies for decades. and he's essentially to discuss what type of credits make sense here, right? Like, what does high quality mean?
So are they going to actually purchase? Sorry, are they going to purchase it then through with EU funds, or are they going to make companies within the EU? That's why I said compliance.
It'll be a mix. It will be a mix. But right now, the text is incredibly vague. It doesn't specify the exact amounts. It doesn't specify the exact timelines. It doesn't specify the exact type of credits. It only says high quality, high integrity international credits, which can mean anything under the sun.
Sure can.
And so we had a discussion with Lambert where we went through everything. Like, what does it mean? CSEF credits, Article 6.2, Article 6.4, VCM credits, a lot of acronyms there, but basically there's a lot of different options of what this can look like. And that will make or break whether this is going to be good for the climate or not, right? So this is definitely a development that we will watch closely because it might be the biggest demand side driver for carbon removals in the 2030s. We don't know, but it could well be. And so, yeah, a big one that this year, hopefully we'll get a bit more clarity over the course of the year.
Interesting. I like number 4 a lot. Buyers need a why. I agree. You know, why? Especially because the virtue is gone. I mean, why are you doing this?
Honestly, whenever you talk to, I mean, there's obviously a couple of buyers who are plowing ahead,
sure.
But that doesn't scale. And if companies don't have a clear why and what they do with these credits and what they're allowed to do with these credits, nothing's going to happen. We spoke in the past on this podcast about the Green Claims Directive, which was sadly killed, which would have provided clarity, at least in Europe. And I spoke to quite a few buyers also at Carbon Unbound. We did an episode on kind of what buyers really think. We spoke to Robert Höglund in a special episode. And it always comes back to why. And why this is really important right now is that Europe wants to create this buyers club. So one of the vehicles they want to create to generate demand for carbon removals is to have a European buyers club. And it all sounds great, but at the end of the day, again, why should a corporate join this buyers club if they don't know what they can do with the credits? So people like Robert are doing a lot of intellectual work on trying to shift that conversation, but the reality is that regulation is not going to provide an answer. And that's what we really need. We need Europe to say, if you buy these credits from us, from this vehicle, you can do an environmental claim with it, right? Something. But they can't say that. And so we're kind of stuck in a limbo that I fear is going to be very detrimental to the industry.
Yeah. I hear that. And I was already thinking about how that links to number 5, the Nobel Prize for Making Climate. I don't think we agree. I don't agree so much on this one, but it's interesting to talk about. So you're saying that Ecosia, is it Ecosia or Ecosia? I never really knew how to pronounce that.
I don't know how to pronounce, but
the
green search engine.
The green search engine that plants trees and stuff. And they gave $1 million to the Nobel and for this prize. And I would only say, coming from born and raised in a city where they award a lot of prizes in Hollywood and stuff, it's good and it's not. I mean, it creates a lot of posturing and it diverts a lot of attention to real work sometimes. So that's all I would say. It kind of creates a lot of energy spent to win a prize, because then if you have the prize, then more things good can happen to you, which is all true. And then there's also a lot of other people that won't ever win the prize are doing great work. And then, so I don't know. What's your take?
It's super interesting. I'm wondering whether the Oscars, Golden Globe and things, how the parallels and differences with the Nobel Prize, right? Because I will never stand to win a Nobel Prize. But what I imagine is the people who win it, they don't do their work with any intention or idea of winning that prize, right? Like,
I don't know.
It's almost so unreachable. Okay, the whole Nobel, again, it's almost impossible not to drift off to geopolitics talking about anything right now.
I'm sorry.
But I know. Anyway, let's park that one. But the Nobel Prize, at least until recently, was something that it's kind of a cherry on the top, but it's not something that I think most people ever expect to actually get. And so I do find it's a very high status, high visibility vehicle that I wish we had in climate, because we have nothing in climate.
No, that's true.
But I hear your point.
Number 6, are you paying or being paid fairly? Okay. I don't know anything about this, so educate me.
Um, yeah, I mean, I'm also the co-founder of CDR Jobs, right? And we've been running now for I think a year and a half. And so we have a lot of data. And last year, 2 years ago, 2024, we released for the first time a salary report.
Mm.
But this time we had way more data. We had almost 4,000 salary data points, and we did an updated version. We're going to do this yearly, and it's the high level number is salaries are decreasing by around 12%, both in the US and taking the US out as well. If you look at the global, and also there's a very high concentration of jobs in the US, in Germany, but the report is stacked with breakdowns of how this aligns, what types of jobs are being hired, what types of skills are being looked at and needed. So yeah, I'm sure there's something for everyone, whether you're an employer or an employee or a job seeker. You will want to see those numbers basically.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's not entirely good news. There's more jobs, but they're not as high paying.
There's less jobs as well. We have more data because we've been running for longer, but we see that there's it's not terrible the drop, but I would say there's been if roughly 15-20% drop in available jobs on an ongoing basis. And the jobs that do exist pay less. So it's not great news, no.
Well, not great news, but we're talking about biochar next, so that's good news. Number 7, putting the biochar battle to rest. What happened?
Again, it's one of my favorite topics, I guess, biochar permanence. But
Mm-hmm.
there was a policy commentary by a few academics recently that got a lot of attention. And people seem to kind of say, even people in biochar research can't, like they disagree. So should we even trust biochar? And it unleashed this whole debate. So I went deep on this, and when you actually look at it, the academics disagree on a very, very minute detail. They agree that kind of biochar is permanent carbon removal. They disagree whether it's 100, 200, or 1,000 years and what percentage, right? But it's very minuscule, and often you have the same academics on both sides, actually, of both
Mm-hmm.
papers. So it's just something that I wanted to call out because I started seeing people a bit outside of the biochar permanence bubble seeing like, should we trust this? But actually,
Oh, yeah.
for policy reasons, this is irrelevant. And
We're
policy is
good.
already addressing this. Like if you look at policy in Europe, they're already building in buffers and testing protocols to essentially decrease the uncertainty for exactly this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I would say, time to move on.
Well, again, all through the biochar effect interviews across the world, everyone talks about the permanence. It's there. They proved it. Matthew filmed at the 20-year running study in Australia too. So it's not an unknown fact. Let's just call it a fact, right? Can we? Biochar is permanent. All right. Calm conviction in CDR number 8. We are talking about
Aaron Burns.
Where is it's Aaron? Yeah. Okay. There's her. I guess it looks different in the picture. Okay. You say calm conviction in CDR. Let's talk about Aaron.
Yeah, Aaron is the executive director of Carbon 180, the leading nonprofit in the US on carbon removals. That's not an easy job right now. And she's been doing a really good work and not just navigating these difficult waters, but also being quite explicit and I guess documenting her thoughts and her journey. She launched a Substack recently, and she's trying to essentially describe of what should we do in the US right now. What type of policy works, what type of advocacy works. And I think that's a very useful resource in these times where there's just so much uncertainty around what's happening in the United States when it comes to carbon removal. So really recommend, especially giving her Substack a credible path. It's called a follow. And yeah, just following along with her journey.
I like the name of that, and I will follow. I did not know she did that, and it is necessary to talk about it because that's what I'm trying to do too. It's just, let's place this activity inside creating a civilization that sits within Earth cycles. You just can't continue to make unidirectional material flows. Even if you just take the word carbon out of it, you have to make circular pretty much everything, and CDR does that in the world of carbon. So why not? And I think I've said that before. many times. But anyway, number 9, CDR through the public lens. Yes, your second favorite podcast.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite is obviously the CDR Policy Scoop, but I really like the carbon removal show. Big fan. I actually think it's the best produced CDR podcast. They put so much effort into each episode. Like, I'm always amazed by just how much different information from interviews, conferences, reports they managed to really put into a fun, short format. But they did first in the season 4, which got released in the last 6 months. First, they did 3 episodes on policy, which I obviously loved. But then they also did 3 episodes on communication of carbon removals. And I thought that was really well done and provided really good framing around how we should talk about removals within the bubble, outside the bubble, what risks we might be facing, what roadblocks. And so, yeah, give it a listen. I think it's a great resource and is really well done.
That's awesome. And number 10, uncomfortable climate. What makes you uncomfortable?
No, this is the name of my new initiative.
Well, there you go. Essentially, that's what I figured.
What I realized more and more is that I keep encountering topics that are stigmatized within the climate space and that we're not allowed to talk about. One is geoengineering, to give an obvious example, right? Another one is how do we make oil and gas cleaner, right? You can't talk about it because we shouldn't have oil and gas, but we will have oil and gas. So let's talk about
nuclear energy,
cleaner, right? Like nuclear energy. Honestly, there are so many. And so I decided to essentially have those conversations on LinkedIn Live, also upload them on YouTube. And I already had the first with Paul Gamble on what is global cooling. It was a great conversation. I'm going to have my next one with Jack Andreasen Kavanaugh on decarbonizing oil and gas. There is already one planned on nuclear because that is definitely another one.
Yeah, doing the same. Like I'm actually going back to the climate skeptics because it's fascinating what they have to say around the emergency and the tipping points. No one disagrees that humans do have an impact on the atmosphere, but to what degree and how does it? What are those linkages like? And it is an interesting conversation, and it's so important to discuss them because the argument against CDR is that we have to only put it in emissions reduction because it's such an you know what I mean? There's these linkages that are made that may not be helpful, and so where are we? And I know that people hate it when you open up what they call the can of worms. But at the same time, if you don't address these things openly, then they just fester the way they've been festering.
And I mean, maybe side note, because this literally happened today. Today, a very famous, or well-known, let's put it, climate academic posted something and really bashed carbon removals. And I commented because he said that it's a scientific fact that carbon removal is bullshit. And I challenged that in a respectful comment, and I was like, "Where's that science? Can you reference it?" To which essentially he removed the connection and removed me from being able to engage further on that thread. And I was like, I wrote to him afterwards, just like because that's the only message I can now send him. Like, really, is this the type of public discourse we want to have? Like, I'm just shocked how we don't allow for conversation of opposing viewpoints and difficult topics.
No, we have to have them. And I'm sorry that happened to you, but I'm not surprised. And my wake up really was around how many people didn't really care about me doing a film on carbon removal at all. And, saying again, wind, solar, trees, love them all. And actually I'm less excited about certain aspects of solar, given maybe other energy sources and all of that, given minerals and all. And everyone will just get so upset. It's not that, let's get the emotion out of it and get back to pragmatic conversations about, can we please just calm down and have these conversations in a rational, scientific way? And I know trust the science. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not telling you trust the science. I'm just saying, how many minerals do you need for some of this transition to happen? And where are they? Are they underground or are they above ground? And if they're still underground, we have a problem, right?
Or even in the ocean.
or in the ocean or all this
whole
stuff.
other discussion.
Right. So anyway, I love it. I think this is very refreshing. I'm glad you're doing that. I think there's going to be so much of this is going to have to happen. And yeah, that's fantastic. So that's a great start to the year.
Yeah, that's a wrap.